Well, let's talk to the retail analyst, Kate Hardcastle, who joins me now. Very good afternoon to you, Kate. How much of a surprise is this, given the history? Was the writing on the wall with it?
Well, it doesn't make for a great hearing, does it? Listening to you just talk over the history of the past few decades in terms of Sir Philip Green's empire. Topshop, though, was a really highly coveted brand within the portfolio of the Arcadia Group. It really kind of forms the storybook of teenagers from the 90s and the noughties. It was a place to be seen. There would be queues outside the door at 5:30 p.m. on a Saturday night whilst people waited to spend their part-time job money waiting to get the outfit of the weekend. It really did have a special place in the hearts and minds of consumers. Now, it's certainly a very challenging marketplace, Isabel. We've had entrants such as the Boohoo Group, who are a pure e-tail player, and they've seen their fortunes go up and up while brands like Topshop have diminished. While it's trying to turn itself around, I'm afraid the challenge is looking very difficult indeed. And a lot of that comes down to the investment and also strategically what the business was planning and where the head was at maybe a few years ago when some of this critical change should have taken place.
I was just reading the statement quickly when you were speaking there from Arcadia. They haven't actually confirmed it. They say they're aware of recent media speculation surrounding it, but they seem to blame what they call the forced closure of their stores for sustained periods on the crisis that they're facing, saying it's a result of COVID-19. It's had a material impact on trading across their business. So it's this sort of combined problem, isn't it? The disruptors in the market, the Boohoos, the online sector booming, along with the high streets being closed for all these months.
I'm sure that the hardworking team that do work as part of the brand were on some turnaround strategy. I'm sure they were reconnecting with consumers. We've certainly seen their social media reach go up over recent months. And I'm sure that they needed, as part of that plan, that very wide store portfolio to keep trading. Obviously, people were banking on that because they're not just a pure online store. They are a brand that has many retail stores throughout the UK. But I think we can't deny that strategically they've been quite off mark for many years. Consumers have had their eyes opened with a huge raft of competition that's come into the marketplace. And if that brand would have been healthier at the start of the situation we found ourselves in, it perhaps wouldn't have found the last few months as difficult as perhaps it's found itself. And we see that similarly with brands like Marks and Spencer's, who've announced their worst year in terms of trading figures and a raft of store closures, and also John Lewis, who have created a 5-year strategy plan, which sees them move into things like property and greater attention to being a financial service provider rather than just a pure retailer. Yes, these are very challenging times, but you needed to be in the very best position at the beginning of the year, financially and with your strategy, to be able to accommodate the change.
We understand that the group had been in talks with lenders to try and find this £30 million emergency loan, but that they'd only been interested in an online approach to the company. Do you think that there is some future for Topshop in a sort of online capacity, or where do you think this all is going to go? Is it all going to end up in boarded up streets for the UK's high street?
Well, I think there's two points to the question there, and both really salient and important. First and foremost, Topshop is a legacy brand. There will always have a connection, and I do think that there is an opportunity to turn that round. We've seen similar, if you're aware, in the fashion market of brands like Karen Millen and Coast, which used to have wide store retail networks. There were retailers in their own right, and those of brands have been bought by actually the Boohoo Group and now trade as a pure e-tail offer. It's allowed that brand to have a greater offer and open up new marketplaces, and I would imagine Topshop, should it come to that, would absolutely have place in terms of its brand worth and equity. In terms of our high streets, we just can't let them be boarded up. What we have to do is make sure that our government, our local authorities, and all the stakeholders start creating places that aren't just wholly dependent on retail, that are affordable for independent retailers, who some of which are getting a bit of a boom right now because we're shopping a lot more locally and we understand the importance a lot more of local retail, that they get the chance to head onto the high street with reasonable rent and rates, and that we can breathe some life and investment back into that. It's definitely hard to talk about that when the country's dealing with a pandemic, but that's the big, bold action we need to take.
And of course, 13,000 jobs at risk, lots of fears about pensions as well. And of course, the saga of BHS in the back of everybody's minds. How concerning will that be?
Incredibly. You know, the Arcadia Group's been built with a lot of very talented people who have spent a lot of their time and dedication from the shop floor upwards. Brands aren't built by just one person, they're built by a huge team And every single person in retail is nervous, particularly if their job's reliant on traditional retail, bricks and mortar retail, in terms of what the future might be when it is related to a brand that is experiencing very troubling, challenging times. I can say wholeheartedly, having worked on a shop floor, Isabel, it is a grueling job sometimes. You're facing the customer all the time. It's very physical work. And certainly, we're thinking of everyone in that industry, hoping that this change in retail can afford enough opportunities, maybe on the e-tail side, the commerce side that's online, to open up for these people who will need work, because every job symbolises a family. We know that.
Retail expert Kate Hardcastle, always good to get your thoughts. Thanks very much.